The morning air buzzed with the hum of engines and laughter echoing across the terminal. I dragged my suitcase toward the private check-in area, my heels clicking against the marble floor, when my father's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Well," he said, folding his arms, his smirk sharp as ever. "You'll be lucky if they let you sit in the back, Mia. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin." Amber, my older sister, snorted behind her sunglasses. "Maybe she can help load our luggage. That's more her speed." Their laughter turned a few heads nearby, which was exactly what they wanted. They loved an audience. I just stood there, calm, letting the moment stretch. They didn't deserve my anger anymore. I'd wasted enough years craving their respect. My father's eyes traveled over my simple beige coat and the carry-on I'd bought years ago when I was broke. "You really think you belong here?" he said, voice low. "This isn't a budget terminal. This is where people of value travel." I smiled faintly. "I know." Before he could respond, a young woman in a dark blue uniform came rushing toward us, nearly out of breath. "Ms. Reynolds," she said quickly, clutching her tablet. "I've been looking everywhere for you. Your jet has been refueled and is ready for departure. Captain Hayes just sent word. Your crew is waiting for your signal to board." The world seemed to go still. Amber blinked first, confusion flashing across her face. "Wait, your jet?" The attendant straightened, nodding respectfully. "Yes, ma'am. Ms. Mia Reynolds, the owner of Horizon Aeronautics." I turned to my father and sister. They looked like statues, the kind you find outside old banks, chipped by time and arrogance. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and said softly, "Thank you. Tell Captain Hayes I'll be there in a minute." "Yes, ma'am." The attendant hurried off. Dad's mouth opened, then closed. You bought a jet?" "No," I said calmly, meeting his eyes. "I built the company that makes them." Amber laughed, a weak, nervous sound. "You're joking." "I don't have time for jokes, Amber." I started walking toward the private terminal. Each step felt heavier, not from pride, but from memory. Of nights when I slept in my car, of days when I counted change to buy groceries, of every insult they'd thrown that had turned into fuel. Behind me, my father called out, "Mia, wait." I stopped, but didn't turn. He sounded smaller than I remembered. "When did you? How did you?" "While you were busy laughing," I said quietly. "I was busy working." I glanced back just once. Their faces were pale, eyes darting toward the jet visible through the glass, its silver body gleaming under the sun, engines humming softly, my name printed on the side in clean letters. Then I smiled, not out of vengeance but peace. "Enjoy your flight," I told them. "Mine's already waiting." And as the automatic doors slid open before me, I stepped into the world they said I'd never reach. When the glass doors closed behind me, their shocked faces disappeared, but their voices didn't. I could still hear echoes of every word they'd thrown at me for years. Failure, disappointment, embarrassment. They thought I'd fallen off the map when I walked out of that house 5 years ago. Maybe I did, but sometimes disappearing is the first step to becoming someone new. I left home with a suitcase and $300. I remember that first night. A bus station in Arizona, the smell of old coffee, my phone lighting up with messages from Amber. "Come back before Dad changes the locks. You won't make it on your own." She was wrong. I didn't make it on my own. I made it because I was alone. I worked double shifts at a roadside diner, washed dishes until my hands cracked, and slept in a storage room behind the freezer because rent was too much. Every morning at 5 a.m., I'd watch private jets slice across the pink horizon and whisper to myself, "One day, I'll fly higher than all of them." The turning point came one rainy evening when a man named Lucas Blake walked in, middle-aged, quiet, the kind of person who listened more than he spoke. He was a logistics consultant, stopping by for coffee between flights. He noticed the sketchbook beside the register where I'd been scribbling plans for a shipping startup. You draw flight routes in your free time? He asked. I laughed. More like dreams I can't afford. He studied the notebook for a long moment, then said, dreams that survive hunger and humiliation? Those are the ones worth investing in. That sentence changed everything. Lucas became my first investor and my mentor. I built my first business from the ground up, a freight management app that helped small delivery companies coordinate routes more efficiently. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy. But within a year, it caught the attention of Horizon Air Logistics. They didn't hire me. They partnered with me. By the time I turned 29, I was sitting in meetings with men who once wouldn't return my emails. I remember one board member saying, "You don't look like a CEO." I smiled. That's because you're still looking for one in a suit. I built my empire in an apron. 2 years later, Horizon merged under my leadership. And the first thing I bought wasn't a mansion or a yacht, it was my own jet. Not to brag, but because every flight I took reminded me of that girl who used to watch from the diner window, cold, tired, and still hopeful. And then one day, out of nowhere, an invitation arrived, family trip to the Bahamas. From Dad and Amber, the same people who once told me, don't come back until you're worth something. I didn't go to prove them wrong. I went because I wanted to see if they'd changed. But standing at that gate this morning, watching them mock me all over again, I realized they never would. They hadn't evolved. I had. As my jet door opened and warm air from the cabin brushed against my face, I whispered to myself, they'll never understand that I didn't chase money. I chased peace. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I'd finally caught it. The jet sliced through the clouds like a blade through silk, engines humming steady beneath the floor. I sat near the window, staring out at the horizon, endless, golden, untouchable. The world looked small from up here, and maybe that was the point. My phone buzzed against the leather armrest for the third time. Dad. I ignored it. He'd never called to apologize before, and I doubted today would be the exception. Ms. Reynolds, the flight attendant said gently, leaning closer. Captain Hayes wanted me to inform you that we're ahead of schedule. Would you like coffee or tea? Coffee, I said softly. Black. As she walked away, I finally reached for the phone. Missed calls. 3 voicemails. All from him. I played the first one. Mia, it's your father. Call me back. We need to talk. The second one came through a little shakier. I don't understand what's going on. The attendant said you own the jet? Is this a joke? And the third, that one was quieter. I made mistakes, but I never thought you'd surpass me. That word, surpass. It tasted like vindication and pain mixed together. The seatbelt sign blinked off. I leaned back, crossing my legs, and hit call back. He answered instantly. Mia, I didn't speak. Just listen to the panic in his breathing. Why didn't you tell us? He said, voice trembling somewhere between anger and disbelief. You could have said something. I could have helped you. I almost laughed. You mean like you helped me when I begged for tuition? When you told me to marry rich instead of study? That was years ago, he said sharply. Don't twist things. I'm not twisting anything, I replied. I'm reminding you of the parts you like to forget. Mia, he exhaled, a sound of exhaustion or regret. Maybe both. You've proven your point. You're successful. You're not looking for validation. I cut in. That's what you can't stand, isn't it? I didn't need your money. I didn't need your name. For a long moment, there was silence. I could almost hear the weight of everything he'd never said pressing between us. You're still my daughter, he said finally. That should mean something. It used to, I whispered. But you taught me that being your daughter wasn't about love. It was about winning. His tone turned sharp again. You think I'm the villain in your story, but everything I did was to push you harder. I wanted you to grow. I smiled bitterly. And you did. You just didn't expect me to grow away from you. He sighed again, quieter this time. Amber told me you bought Horizon Aeronautics. That you're now the CEO. I said, yes. And the majority shareholder. He choked on a breath. That company used to be your pride and joy. I finished for him. Funny how life turns, huh? There was a pause. Then his voice softened in a way I'd never heard before. I underestimated you, Mia. I shouldn't have. You remind me too much of your mother. That caught me off guard. Mom had died when I was 12, the only person who ever told me I could be more than my father's approval rating. Hearing her name felt like someone reopening a scar. She believed in you, he continued. Maybe I should have too. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to stay steady. You had years to believe in me, Dad. You just never looked close enough. Silence again, the kind that's too heavy to break. Outside the window, the sun began to set over the clouds, painting the sky in gold and violet. For the first time, I didn't feel angry. Just finished. Dad, I said softly, you don't have to keep pretending to care. I don't need that anymore. Mia, please, he whispered. Don't hang up. Let's talk when you land. I'll come by the hangar. I hesitated. The little girl inside me still wanted to believe he meant it. But the woman I'd become knew better. I'll think about it, I said. And then I ended the call. The phone buzzed again immediately, this time, a text from Amber. I'm sorry, too. We didn't know how strong you'd become. I stared at it for a while, unreadable emotions swirling in my chest. Strength wasn't something I was born with. It was something I built from every rejection, every tear, every night I thought I'd break and didn't. The captain's voice broke over the intercom. Ms. Reynolds, we're descending now. Estimated landing in 20 minutes. I leaned back, closing my eyes. The hum of the engines was almost soothing. I thought of the diner, the notebook, the cold nights. I thought of the jet door closing behind me while my father watched from the other side of the glass. Maybe this was what real freedom felt like, not just flying above them, but flying without the need for them to look up. When the wheels finally touched down, I whispered to myself, you did it, Mia. Not for revenge, for peace. And for the first time, I believed it. The wheels touched the runway with a soft thud, the kind that settles into your chest rather than your ears. The hum of the engines faded as the jet slowed, rolling across the tarmac toward the private hangar. Through the window, I could already see them, my father and sister, waiting by the security line. Funny, they used to make me wait. Now, they were the ones standing in the cold wind, watching as my jet taxied toward them. Captain Hayes's voice came through the cabin intercom. Welcome home, Ms. Reynolds. Would you like me to have the crew prepare the car? Yes, I said softly, and opened the door. A moment later, the stairs lowered, and warm air brushed my face as sunlight spilled into the cabin. I took a breath before stepping out, not because I was nervous, but because I wanted to remember this feeling forever. The air smelled of jet fuel and triumph. Amber's hair whipped in the wind, her perfect composure cracked wide open. Dad looked older than I remembered, his sharpness replaced by something fragile, uncertain. He stepped forward first. Mia, he called, his voice barely audible over the engines. We need to talk. I stopped halfway down the stairs, the heels of my shoes clicking against the metal. Now you want to talk? He flinched at the tone, calm but unyielding. I said some things I shouldn't have. Years of things, I interrupted. And you meant every one of them. Amber moved closer, her tone pleading. We didn't know you'd become so successful. I laughed quietly. That's exactly the problem, Amber. You only see value when it comes with a price tag. Dad exhaled. You're right. We were wrong. I should have supported you instead of humiliating you. For a second, I just stared at him, the man who once defined my entire world. His apology wasn't grand or eloquent, but for him, even those few words took effort. Do you know what kept me going all those years? I asked softly. It wasn't proving you wrong. It was proving me right. His eyes dropped to the pavement. I suppose I deserved that. I shook my head. You don't get to suppose. You either learn from it or you keep repeating it. He looked up again, pain flickering across his face. Can we start over? I hesitated. There was a time I would have said yes, a time when I'd have traded everything just to hear those words. But that time had passed. Starting over, I said quietly, means letting go of who we used to be. Can you do that, Dad? He didn't answer. The chauffeur pulled the black sedan closer to the hangar, stepping out to open the back door. The sound of it, clean, sharp, efficient, reminded me of every small victory it took to reach this point. Amber stepped closer. Please, Mia, don't leave like this. I turned to her. Amber, you laughed when I left home with nothing. You said I'd come crawling back. Tears glistened in her eyes. I was cruel. I know that now. I studied her. The sister who'd grown up on privilege, but never learned humility. For a brief moment, I saw the same little girl who used to braid my hair before school, before competition, before envy replaced closeness. I don't hate you, I said finally. I just stopped trying to fit into a family that only loved me when I lost. Amber covered her mouth, crying quietly. Dad reached out, but I took a step back. Don't, I whispered. Let me leave with peace, not guilt. He froze, hand hanging midair. The wind whipped across the runway, carrying the scent of jet fuel and the hum of distant turbines. I looked at the jet behind me, sleek, strong, everything I'd built from nothing. Then I looked at them, two people still standing exactly where I'd left them years ago. Goodbye, I said softly. I hope you both find something worth flying for. And then I walked toward the car. The driver opened the door, bowing slightly. Welcome back, Ms. Reynolds. I slid into the back seat, resting my head against the leather. Through the window, I saw my father staring after me, shoulders heavy, eyes hollow. He wasn't angry anymore. He was small, human, and maybe, finally, aware of what he'd lost. As the car began to move, my phone buzzed again, a text from him. I'm proud of you, Mia. You did what I couldn't. I stared at the words for a long time. Then slowly I typed back. I didn't do it against you, Dad. I did it without you. I hit send. The sun dipped low across the horizon, painting the sky in amber and gold, the same colors of the life I once dreamed of but never thought I'd touch. I closed my eyes, feeling the rhythm of the tires against the road. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like release. Because real success isn't about who watches you rise. It's about who you become when no one's watching at all. And as the car drove away from the runway, leaving my past behind in a swirl of dust and light, I smiled, quietly, peacefully, knowing that this time, I wasn't running from them. I was finally running toward myself.